सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे। रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमु रामाय तस्मै नमः। रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः। 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 In the meditation that we are doing right now, we are taking mantras from Mundaka Upanishad. If we are practicing meditation regularly, two things should happen. Our ability to quieten the mind of all other thoughts, that ability should increase. And our ability to pay attention to Lakshana of Akshara, that also should increase. If these two things are not there, the duration of meditation, whichever duration we take up, whatever duration we sit, we will feel the effectiveness is not there. If you are thinking only about Drishya Vishayas for half an hour, doesn't matter which mantra you take, you feel mind has gone all over, not having any support to hold on to. But let's say mind quietened, but Lakshana of Atma, that clarity is not there, then also it will not know what to meditate upon. So in Mundaka you will notice the mantras which are talking about creation after Divyohyamurta Purusha. Those mantras are very, very helpful to appreciate how much of Atma Lakshana one has owned up. It is one thing to say, I am witness of thought. It is another thing to say, Chandra and Surya are my eyes. But the ease with which we are able to say it will decide how much of individual conditionings we have distanced. If in Aham I include body and mind and ego, then that statement will not make sense. Where is sun? Where is moon? Where am I? To the extent I am able to dissociate from body, mind and ego, to the extent we are able to abide in Akshara, to that extent these mantras will help us move further. That this Chaitanya is not illumining only this individual conditioning, it is a substratum of this entire creation. Sarva Bhutantar Atma. What are some bhutas? Chandra and Surya is taken as an example. Dyuloka is taken as an example. So whichever mantras we are studying, we should try to use it for Nididhyasanam. Now let us chant second verse, 13th chapter. Kshetrajñam chapi mam vidhi, Kshetrajñam chapi mam vidhi, Sarvakshetreshu bharata, Sarvakshetreshu bharata, Kshetra kshetrajñayor jnanam, Kshetra kshetrajñayor jnanam, Yattajnanam matam mama, Yattajnanam matam mama. Two words Bhagwan has used and elaborate bhashya to explain those two words. One word is kshetra. Kshetra means field. He said this body is kshetra, representing this entire universe, which is like a field. Just like in a field, we sow grains, we sow seeds. In this field also, we sow karmas. Through the body and in this universe, it is called kshetra because we are sowing different karmas here. And once the crop is ready, we harvest it. In the same way, we are harvesting karma phalas. Therefore, Bhagwan says this body is kshetra, where you have different types of karmas, bringing doership and bringing results of those actions. Now the one who is seeing this kshetra, one who is knowing this kshetra, is kshetrajña. Kshetram janati iti kshetrajñah. And Bhagwan said, this kshetrajña is none other than Ishvara. One who is knowing this field is none other than Ishvara, pure consciousness. Now field is there, we don't have any doubt about it. Body we don't have doubt, world we don't have doubt. Somebody is knowing this field. About that also we don't have doubt. I say I am knowing it. But is this knower Jiva or Ishvara? That is where we have doubt. Is this knower finite or infinite? So this particular verse says, the knower is none other than infinite consciousness. As long as our thought is focused on ahankara, our attention will be on kshetra. What we call as brahmakara vritti, what it does is takes our attention from kshetra to kshetrajña. In the language of 13th chapter, this is how we can look at brahmakara vritti. What does brahmakara vritti do? Pulls our attention from kshetra to kshetrajña. That is the beauty of this vritti, brahmakara vritti. Now different objections were raised. If you say Ishvara is kshetrajña, then several questions Purva Paksha had. Final topic that we had taken up was, if you say Ishvara is kshetrajña, there is no samsara, there is no samsari remaining. If there is no samsara and samsari, whom are scriptures addressing? And as part of that, there was one discussion where he said, this aham and mama, I and mine, they are seen in jnani also. I and mine are seen in jnani. How come this is possible? And Shankaracharya responded by saying, if this doership and enjoyership is real, then there is still some way to go. If a person thinks I am the doer, I am the experiencer, then there is still more shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam to be done The title of a jnani doesn't come that easily. And if it is negated, then that negated I and real I, they can coexist. Nirvikara aham and vikari aham. To say that I am karta bhokta, this I needs to undergo modification. And the understanding is, I am nirvikaraham. So changing I and unchanging I cannot be together at the same time with the same degree of reality. Unchanging I and false changing I, mithya changing I, they can coexist. This is what Shankaracharya said. The main point here is our identification with mind and ego doesn't go away that easily. Sometimes we give Mahatmas give their own example to help us understand. The story of Avadhuta in Madhusudana Saraswati ji's life, that is an illustration of how difficult it is to cut identification with mind and the opinions living in the mind. The story goes, Madhusudana Saraswati ji, when Avadhuta comes and sits on his chair, the Vyasapit on which he was sitting, Avadhuta comes and sits there. And he says, who are you? The Avadhuta says, we'll discuss that later, but you answer some of my questions. When you go for Shastrartha, when you discuss Vedanta with others, and you are able to prove the point of Advaita Vedanta over other schools of thoughts, does it give you joy? He says, yes, I feel I have saved this whole school of thought, Advaita Darshana, from other schools. Then he says, sometimes when other schools of thought win over you, do you feel sad? He says, yes, I feel sad. I feel I have let down all my previous acharyas. Avadhuta says, this is our chitta tadatmya. Identification with mind and the views that this mind holds. Now we will not have views about darshanas. Our views will be worldly views. To the extent we are holding on to it, to that extent we are bound. So then the advice that Avadhuta gives is, he says, do more upasana. To the extent mind can think about Bhagavan, think about totality, to that extent it becomes capable of leaving its own strong opinions. So the solution for strong doership, first solution is upasana. He says whatever is there is Bhagwan's will. If he alone is appearing as creation, then his creation is perfect. Then comes meditation upon nature of truth. Second option is that more I focus on nature of Atma, to that extent the hold that Anatma has over me, that will weaken. Then another Purva Paksha came who was saying, let Ishvara be Kshetrajna, I don't have any problem. But I am still a samsari. And I will meditate upon Ishvara, and one day I will get liberation. Shankaracharya said, let us not start our journey on the wrong footing. See, it doesn't look wrong what he is saying. What is he saying? Ishvara bhi kshetrajna, I don't have any problem. But I am samsari. Right now I am not liberated. Right now I am not Brahman. One day I will become Brahman. So there Shankaracharya said, whatever sadhana we are doing, we should start with this understanding that our essential nature is Brahman. Not to make it separate and feel that one day we are going to go and become one with it. He was very upset with whoever thinks in this way, that I am different from Brahman and one day I am going to become one with it. Okay, that part also we had seen. Now the last portion of this Bhashya is a very sweet portion where the sadhaka has a genuine question. He says, you said everything is Ishvara. Kshetra is also Ishvara. Kshetrajna is also Ishvara. Then what about Avidhya? This ignorance which is there, where should I put it? To whom does Avidhya belong to? He says the biggest limitation in Kshetrajna is being associated with Avidhya. Who is saying this? Purvapaksha. Avidhya you say, or Maya, or this understanding that I don't know the truth. This Avidhya which is there, that itself is the biggest limitation. Whose limitation? Limitation of Ishvara, limitation of Kshetrajna. This is page number 310, last para. Nanu avidyavatvam eva kshetrajnasya samsaritva doshaha. Being associated with avidya, this itself is the biggest dosha of kshetrajna. Tat krutam cha sukha dukhitvadi pratyaksham upalabhyate iti chet. Somebody asks him, why do you say so? Why do you say you are associated with avidya? Because he says, I feel it is my sorrow and my joy. To whom does Sukha Dukkha belong? He says it belongs to me. When I am unhappy, I say I am unhappy. So whom will Avidya belong? He says it belongs to me only. I don't have any problem in saying I am consciousness. But in spite of saying that, I still feel avidya and its effects, ignorance and its effects in the form of joy and sorrow, they still belong to me. Siddhanti, Bhagwan Shankaracharya, he says, avidya cannot belong to kshetrajna. Avidya cannot belong to consciousness. Why? Because it is known. You say that you are knowing joy and you are knowing sorrow. Means in part you are putting it in kshetra category. Because whatever is known is kshetra. And in part you are saying this belongs to me. You are putting it in kshetrajna category. So it cannot be in two places at the same time. This looks like a simple point, but he is going to build upon it. Because we say, I know this thought, and we also say, I am this thought. It could be any thought, thought of anger, thought of sorrow, thought of joy. One part of us says, thought becomes known to me. And second part says, I am angry, I am sorrowful, I am happy. You see, there is a very subtle error which is happening over here. Na kshetrajnasya kshetra dharmatvat. Na jneyasya kshetra dharmatvat. Whatever is known as jneya, which is avidya, it belongs to kshetra. because it is having the quality of becoming known. Jnatuhu kshetrajnasya tatkruta dosha anupapattehe. Of jnata, here jnata refers to pure consciousness. That jnata doesn't get affected by any of these limitations of kshetra. So avidya belongs to kshetra. Avidya and its effects, they won't affect kshetrajna. Means in simple words, what he's saying is, even the fact that I don't know, this I know. Means that consciousness illumines this fact that I don't know something. If somebody asks us, do you know the code? And your answer is, no, I don't. Now that thought that I did not know or I don't know is known to me. So avidya is known to me in that way. And if somebody tells 001 code, now that 001, once I know that code, I know this code that is also known to me. So avidya is known and laukika vidya is known. This is the one who is beyond it, that is kshetrajna. Pure consciousness is beyond avidya and beyond vidya also. This point we saw in Saddarshanam. Ramana Maharshi said, Vidya katham bhati nached avidya. Only when ignorance is there, only then vidya is known, knowledge is known, because both of them are opposite. Vidya vina kim prabhibhati avidya. Without knowledge, can we know ignorance also? Means both are relative terms. The main question is, dvayam cha kasya? Whom does vidya and avidya become known to? When we inquire into this, we go into Swarupa Nishtha. That Swarupa Nishtha is Paramartha Vidya. Swarupa Nishtha, Paramartha Vidya. Okay, so this point he's saying, avidya, be very clear, the very fact it becomes known, you cannot include it in kshetrajna. You cannot include it in I. Avidya will always belong to kshetra. Otherwise, we are carrying this very interesting contradiction. On one hand, we say it is seen, and on another hand, we say it is me. Whatever is me cannot be seen. If at all it is seen, it is not me. Now there is a very nice dialogue that happens between Shankaracharya and the Purva Paksha. But first appreciate what are they discussing, okay? There is one quiz question coming up also. There are three entities over here. One is avidya, ignorance. Second entity is atma, consciousness. Third entity is relationship between atma and avidya. Third entity is relationship called as sambandha. What are the three entities? Avidya, atma and sambandha. Okay? Because what is his point? He says, atma has sambandha with avidya. Purva Paksha's point is this. He says, atma has relation with avidya. So Shankaracharya tries to put these three separate. He says there is avidya, there is atma, there is sambandha. Now he asks a question. Okay, the whole essence of this next portion is this. He says, out of these three things, which one has become drishya? Which all things have become drishya? Drishya means seen. First entity, Avidya. Did it become Drishya? Yes or no? Yes. Let us take the third entity. Sambandha. Has it become Drishya? Purva Pakshi says yes. He says, I think Sambandha becomes Drishya. Then third entity, Atma. Has it become Drishya? He says, Atma can never become Drishya. So finally Shankaracharya says, if you are establishing Sambandha between Atma and Avidya, and Atma is that which has never become Drishya, how come your Sambandha became Drishya? To see two things together and to establish Sambandha, you should have seen them first. That is the point he is trying to establish over here. He says, Avidya is Drishya, no doubt about it. And what you are saying is, you are including Avidya in Drashta. And Atma, which has never become Drishya, you are superimposing a Sambandha of that Atma with Avidya. So his bottom line is, he says, you tell me where you have seen this Sambandha of Atma and Avidya. Okay. This is the main essence. But the way it is opened up is very nice. Listen with an open mind. And even if you don't follow this fully, it is okay. What is the main thing we have to remember? Atma is devoid of Avidya. Avidya is Kshetra Dharma, doesn't belong to Kshetrajna. See, when we are using this word Kshetrajna, we have to understand it is referring to pure consciousness. Because that's what this verse said. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vitti. Kshetrajna is not referring to Jiva here. Kshetrajna means pure consciousness. Essential nature of Jiva is pure consciousness in that way. Okay, now the dialogue starts. Page number 311, the middle portion. Atra aha sa avidya kasya iti. Purva Paksha is asking, to whom does avidya belong to? Sa avidya kasya. To whom does avidya belong to? Bhagavan doesn't answer it. He doesn't say avidya belongs to you. You know what he says? Yasya drishyate tasya eva. The one to whom it is seen, the one who is seeing it, it belongs to that person. Yasya drishyate tasya eva. In English, it's hard to put it. Yasya drishyate means the one to whom avidya becomes seen. It belongs to that person. Yasya drishyate tasya eva. जिसकी हो करके दिखती है, उसी की है. In Hindi, that is the precise way to put it. जिसकी हो करके दिखती है, avidya उसी की है. Then the Purva Paksha says, by whom is it seen? Kasya drishyate iti. No, Bhagavan again doesn't say it is seen by you. You know why? Because our scriptures don't want to establish that you have avidya. I have avidya, this is said by ignorant jiva. So Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji, he doesn't explicitly say you have avidya. He is trying to bring it out through that Purva Pakshi. And finally he says, yes, I have avidya. So what did Purva Pakshi ask? To whom does this avidya belong to? What did Shankaracharya say? The one who is seeing it, it belongs to that person. Now Purva Pakshi says, who is seeing avidya? Shankaracharya doesn't say, you are seeing avidya. He says, Katam drishyate chet avidya Avidya kasya drishyate iti prashna nirarthakah. He says asking who is seeing avidya or to whom avidya is becoming an object, this question is meaningless. He says, why are you saying this? He gives an example. If you see a cow and you see a person who is owning that cow, and still you ask this question, to whom does this cow belong to? That question is not right. That question is meaningless. So in the same way, if you are seeing avidya, then you are also seeing that person who is having avidya. So don't ask this question, who is seeing avidya? Avidya kasya, this question is not right. Nacha tadvati upalabhyamane sa kasya iti prashnah yuktah. Nahi gomati upalabhyamane gavah kasya iti prashna arthavan bhavati. If you are seeing the cow and the owner of the cow asking this question, to whom does this cow belong to? He says that question is not right. Now the Puropaksha, he says, this cow example that you are giving is not the right example. Why is it? Because both of them are pratyaksha. Remember previously also he had given that Puropaksha. Sthanu Purusha, he had said both of them are pratyaksha. Here also he says cow and the owner of the cow, both of them are pratyaksha. Nanu vishamah drishtantah. Gavam tadvatascha pratyakshatvat tat sambandha api pratyakshah iti prashna nirarthaka. In the case of cow and the owner of the cow, both are pratyaksha. You can see them through your sense organs. So the sambandha also you can see through the sense organ. Na tatha avidya tadvansha pratyaksho yatha prashna nirarthaka syat. But in the case of avidya, this is not the case. Because the mix-up is happening between avidya, which is apratyaksha. It is not known through pratyaksha. Now he's prodding him to think in the same line, Siddhanti. Shankaracharya says, okay, first you tell me, what are you going to gain by knowing the answer to this question? To whom does avidya belong to? He says, leave aside whatever we were discussing for now. You tell me, even if you get to know this avidya by some other means, you said through pratyaksha you cannot know. Let's say you get to know it by some other means. What are you going to gain? Apratyaksheena avidyavata avidya sambandhe jnate kim tavasyat. This is 312, first line. Puropakshi says, I have understood that the cause of all samsara is avidya only. And I have to put forth effort to remove this avidya. Avidyayaha anartha hetutvat parihartavya syat. Because avidya is anartha hetu, effort has to be put in removing this avidya. Now Shankaracharya says, the one to whom avidya belongs to, let that person put forth effort. Yasya avidya sahatam pariharishyati. To whom avidya belongs to, let that person put forth effort to remove avidya. You see where he is going with this? Purvapakshi said, to whom does avidya belong to? He tried to go to some other point, Shankaracharya. That didn't work. He gave some example, cow and owner of cow, but he said, your example is only wrong. Then he says, that's okay, let's leave it aside. you tell me, why are you wanting to know about whom does avidya belong to? Then Purvapakshi said, avidya itself is anartha hetu, and one has to remove it. So Shankaracharya says, the one who is having avidya, let that person remove. Why are you bothered? Now he says, Nanu mama eva avidya. This avidya belongs to me. Shankaracharya says, Janasi tarhi avidyam tadvantam cha atmanam. Then you know avidya, and you also know to whom it belongs to. Why did you say kasya avidya iti? Previously, that is what he has said. To whom does avidya belong to? Who is seeing avidya? He says, I am seeing avidya. That is the first step. Stay there. Aham avidyam janami. I know avidya. Now he says, I know avidya, but I don't know it through pratyaksha. I have not seen it through sense organs. In that way, I have not known avidya. So he is not very certain about the pramana through which he has known avidya. Now the main point of what is going to come here is to establish or to question, how did you conclude sambandha of avidya with Atma? That's what Shankaracharya is going to discuss and conclude. He says there is no vyapti. If you say you did not see this through pratyaksha, even if you use anumana, he says there is no data to conclude that avidya has sambandha with Atma. Nahi tava jnatuhu neya bhutaya avidyaya tatkale sambandha grahitum shakyate. See what has to happen here. There is avidya and there is Atma. Avidya becomes drushya. Avidya becomes drushya. Now if I have to see sambandha of Atma and avidya, what should happen to Atma? Atma also should become drushya. Then only I can see sambandha between them. Or if I say avidya is not kshetra, it belongs to kshetrajna. That means what? Avidya also will not become drushya. So in either case, you cannot see sambandha. Atma cannot become drushya. And if you say avidya is belonging to kshetrajna, then you will not have any entity to see sambandha. He says avidyayaha vishyatvena eva jnatuhu upayuktatvat. You have always seen avidya as drushya, and this jnata cannot become drushya. Therefore, you cannot establish sambandha. Now, Purvapaksha, if he says, okay, let this jnata not know the sambandha, maybe there is some other jnata who knows it. Some other knower who knows the sambandha of this Atma and this avidya. He says even that is not possible because you will end up in infinite regression. So that Atma is there. Now to know that Atma, you need another Atma, and so on. So there cannot be another Atma. Now he concludes this with this line, Yadacha evam avidya dukhitvadyahi na jnatuhu kshetrajnasya kinchit dushyati. Avidya and its effects, they belong to kshetra. They don't bring about any change or modification in kshetrajna. The sum and substratum of this whole discussion is this. If I am able to witness thought of joy as an object and understand that I am unaffected by this thought of joy, that means our discussion has fructified. It looks like a technical thing, but when it comes to sadhana, this is what will make the difference. On one hand, I say, I know this thought of joy, and on another hand, I say, I am sukhi. And same with dukkha also. All other thoughts. The exalted, the fine-tuning in sadhana is this. Because it's not an action, it's more an understanding. Now finally, this Purvapakshi says, I got it. But still I have one doubt remaining. What did you say? That this Kshetrajna is Jnata. Kshetrajna is knower of this field. I feel this Jnatrutva itself is samsara. Knowing an object means modification has come. That Jnatrutva itself is samsara. Nanu ayam eva doshaha yat doshavat kshetra vijnatrutvam. His simple one-line answer is, one-line Purvapaksha is, the very fact that I am seeing kshetra, that itself is my samsara. You see, there are different schools of thoughts which have given different solutions for this. Yoga Darshana said, quieten the perception of kshetra. Chitta vritti nirodha means what? Perception of kshetra is stopped. And when that happens, we come to understand nature of, they won't use the word kshetrajna, they will say nature of drashta. Drashta's nature will be understood as asanga only when our perception of kshetra stops. Some other schools of thoughts, they said, this drashta is jada. By itself it is inert. Only when it connects with mind, this ability to know is born. What is Advaita Vedanta saying? This line is very important. Nacha vijnana swarupasya eva avikriyasya vijnatrutva upacharat. The one whom you are calling as Jnata is really speaking Jnana Swarupa. One whom we are calling as Jnata is really speaking Jnana Swarupa. When conditionings come in the proximity of this Jnana Swarupa Atma, through those conditionings, it gets the title of Jnata. By itself it is Jnana Swarupa. It is not Jnata, it is of the nature of knowledge. Shankaracharya gives an example. He says, nature of fire is heat. But the moment a wooden piece comes in the proximity of it and gets burnt, if you ask the question, who burnt the wood? What will you say? Fire burnt the wood. This title of burning is upachara matra. Fire did not burn the wood. Fire's nature was heat. Whatever came in the proximity of this fire, from the standpoint of that conditioning, it is getting these titles. From the standpoint of wood upadhi, fire got the title of burning. Like that, the title of being a knower, jnata, That is also from conditioning standpoint. From consciousness standpoint, it is knowledge, not even jnata. Now he says, just like jnata, any other title you give to Atma, any other title you give to this Aham, it is all upachara matra. You call it karta, you call it karma, call it karana, give and take. Sampradana, apadana. All karakas you take, they are only superimposed in consciousness. They are not really there. Finally, Purvapaksha says, now I understand. Now, Purvapaksha was not somebody else. He was a sincere student of Advaita Vedanta. He says, all the points that you mentioned so far, that samsaritva in Ishvara is only because of avidya. Avidya is seen, it is drishya, doesn't belong to kshetrajna. Shastra has its validity until avidya is there. And all these notions of doership and enjoyership, they are an appearance in aham. Tarhi atmani kriyakaraka phalatmatayaha swatah abhave avidyaya cha adhyaropitatve karmani avidvat kartavyani eva na vidushamiti praptam satyam eva praptam. Shankaracharya says what you understood is right. That all these karakas, different titles, are mere superimposition in Atma. So with this we complete the Bhashya portion of second mantra. It was an elaborate Bhashya, around 12 pages. And I feel many of these ideas will open up with time. Whenever you read or hear Bhashya, you'll have this feeling, I think I'm getting what they are saying, at the same time not getting what they are saying. Both thoughts will be there. But when we keep going back with those ideas, a lot of these thoughts become clearer. Let us see one value today, which is Acharya Upasanam. Let us chant the 8th verse. Amanitvamadambhitvam amanitvamadambhitvam ahimsa kshantirarjavam ahimsa kshantirarjavam acharyopasanam shaucham sthairyamatma vinigrahah. Last session we had seen the quality of arjavam, integrity in thought, speech and actions. Brings trust in a person, makes a person trustworthy. Next sadhana, next quality is Acharya Upasanam. Acharya Upasanam means tuning with the Guru, tuning with the teacher. Upasana means to sit close. Asana means to sit. Upasana means to sit close. Not physically, but mentally taking the mind closer to the thinking of the teacher. Taittiriya Upanishad is called as Antevasi Shishya. Antevasi means what? He might be living in the ashram, but his mind lives in the values and the teachings that his teacher lives by. So he conducts his life in such a way, he does exactly what his teacher would have liked him to do in that way. Now this word Acharya is a very interesting word. There is one shloka which says, who is an Acharya? Achinoti hi shastrarthan. Achinoti hi shastrarthan means one who consolidates the essential teachings of scriptures. Achinoti means he picks the essential teachings of scriptures and consolidates it for us to follow with ease. Acharya sthapayati api. Acharya sthapayati means he establishes them in tradition. See, during Shankaracharya's time, there was so much confusion about deities. Different people having faith in their own deities and feeling one is greater than the other. Shankaracharya said, what matters most is to worship the deity. And if we are always fighting about who is greater, we are missing the point. So he established the tradition of Panchayatana Puja, 5 deities together. He worship all of them rather than saying who is greater and who is stronger. Means a tradition which is losing its importance, losing its point, the one who revives it and places it back in tradition, achinoti hi shastarthan acharya sthapayati api. Then if he is establishing it and expecting everybody else to follow, and he himself doesn't follow, that is not right. So Acharya is somebody who establishes it and follows it himself. Swayam acharate yasmat. He himself observes those practices. Tasmad acharya uchyate. That is why he is called as an acharya. You'll notice this in every time in history, different times in history, different great Mahatmas have come who have revived traditions for us. Our job is very simple, to walk on the path that they have shown. Not start anything new, any tradition for that matter. That is the role of great Mahatmas. Now, what is this quality of Acharya Upasanam? How does it help? One thing is, if a student is able to tune the mind with the teacher without struggling too much, lot of good qualities and sadhana will come in that student's life unasked. Just on the matter of faith and sincerity. If let's say his teacher is doing japa and the student blindly follows the teacher, he says, because my guru is doing it, I have to do it. It might be personality traits, it might be sadhana related, it might be daily discipline. If he says guru wakes up at Brahma Muhurtam, I will also strive to wake up at the same time. He says those things which you would have struggled with, that comes naturally to a student if he is tuning his mind with the guru. And it is possible that the guru might have taken a long time to reach there. If the student has faith and emulates the guru, all those number of years of struggle, he will cross over it effortlessly. Otherwise, imagine he has to start from point 0 and get it drop by drop, finally reach there. Here, just on the strength of faith, he is starting at a much later point in his spiritual journey. Means as far as goal is concerned, he is much closer to the goal when he is starting. That's why Bhagavan Krishna in Bhagavad Geeta says, Yad Yad Acharati Shreshtaha. If the Shreshta Purusha does the right thing, everybody who emulates that person will reap the benefits of it. That is one thing of Acharya Upasanam. Second meaning of Acharya Upasanam is he is striving to apply these teachings. Only when the mind is tuned, teaching will have an impact. Only when there is reverence. And this is true with any knowledge. To the extent mind is tuned with the teacher, to that extent knowledge will have its impact. Means his struggle to understand Vedanta will be reduced. Sometimes what happens is, we hear something, but our mind doesn't accept it because it has heard so many other things and there is total confusion. But if it is having one source where it can hold and continue further, that's a great blessing of Acharya Upasanam. So in Advaita Parampara, if we say Shankaracharya ji is our Acharya, then whatever other schools of thoughts, whatever other viewpoints we hear, this person will not get confused. And even this portion of Bhashya, what we saw, right? Unless we have that faith in Shankaracharya ji, very difficult to understand. First thing what mind will do is refute it. What are they discussing? Avidhya is Drishya. What is Avidhya first of all? He says, don't worry. Pray to Bhagwan that may I understand this. To whatever extent Bhagwan blesses us, to that extent this knowledge will start opening up. And whenever such student is there who is helpless in front of his guru, the well-being of that student becomes teacher's responsibility. The moment student shows pride that I'm okay, teacher says your well-being becomes your responsibility. This we see in the story of Totakacharya ji. The one who, that story, right? When the Shankaracharya is ready to teach the class, and it is said some disciples, they say, what is the point in waiting for him? Anyway, he doesn't get it. But his faith was such. Shankaracharya says, I will bring him to such a level that this class he will take. And that Totaka meter in which he composes, it was not attained by learning Chandas. He did not study Sanskritam separately, study Chandas separately and then compose in that meter. It is just one grace of the Guru that this student, his well-being is my responsibility. That is another, to say advantage is not the right word. It is another blessing of Acharya Upasana. Whatever shortcomings we have, we will cross over all of it, just with this one quality. Now, the advantage of Acharya Upasanam is, there are many things which we might not see in ourselves. And at the same time, if we live with it, continue with it, there is a chance that these qualities will become obstacles in our spiritual journey. So particularly in Gurukula Vasa, when teacher and student, they stayed together, This was the greatest blessing. Whatever shortcomings we don't see in ourselves, they will become known to us by the grace of Guru. That is the advantage of Acharya Upasanam. Every single thing needs feedback. Even when we go to a gym, person might be good, knowing what to do, but still they have trainers so that they can tell what are you not doing right. So here also on this spiritual path, if there are some obstacles, to remove that, it's a great blessing. Gurukula Vasa is a great blessing. And we also should have right role models. So whenever we start walking on any path, if a person wants to become a sports person, he should be seeing somebody who has become that. That person becomes a role model. So here on the spiritual path, for a shishya, for a student, Guru becomes his role model. As far as sadhana is concerned, commitment to knowledge is concerned, and abidance in knowledge is concerned. For all of that, this quality of Acharya Upasanam will take him in the right direction. Okay, so wherever he slips, at that time he can compare himself to a benchmark. That is the advantage. For Atmanishtha, whenever we were seeing Saddarshanam, every word of Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi Ji, that is a benchmark. Every dialogue of Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi Ji, that is a benchmark. Now the moment that faith comes, that this is where we have to go, to that extent the student is benefited. Okay, that was this quality. More we will see when we meet in January. We will have a break for Thanksgiving, and December I'll be traveling, so we won't have classes in December. We'll meet back again in January. So this time we can use to revise all the Bhashya that we have studied, second verse. And Thanksgiving we'll be seeing 18th chapter, Bhagavad Geeta. Very practical chapter. It is just like this value portion that we are studying. The last part of 18th chapter is very emotional actually. Bhagwan Krishna spent so much energy and time explaining to Arjuna. And finally he says, did you get what I said? Has your delusion gone? And Arjuna says, Bhagwan, by your grace it has gone. Then he says, now do what you want. I will not tell you whether you have to fight or you have to run away. My job was just to give you different viewpoints and to get you to a point where you can make your own decision. But different aspects are covered, which we will try to reflect. Okay, there is a small registration for it. So if you are planning to come, please to register. 6:30 to 7 will be meditation, then 2 discourses, 1 hour each, then a study group. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om, everyone.